Wow, Mr. Nugent, it's good to have you back so soon.
Alex, I'm pleased to return to your campfire, sir. Thank you.
Well, it's good. I'm glad something opened up for you in your busy schedule there. When you ended, we ran into break with you talking about what will happen if any tyrannical government under Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, the Easter Bunny, John McCain comes to confiscate Ted Nugent's guns. You said they will get it lead first and they will be in a pool of blood. And that is the attitude that built this country. And for those that demonize the Founding Fathers and say that they're bad, what do you say to them?
Well, I'm constantly attacked for being an extremist, Alex, and I'm very proud of that label. I'm an extreme American. I believe in extreme independence and extreme liberty, and that means being a positive asset to my family, my neighborhood, and my country by being as productive as I can and to optimize my good over evil, my law-abiding life and my law-abiding family over law-breakers and dangerous people. That being said, I find that, again, in my travels, I'm speaking to you from the Quad Cities of Iowa here in the Mississippi River. I perform every night, but I don't just do my concerts. I hang out with people. I have members of my Ted Nugent United Sportsman Organization, NRA members, Gun Owners of America, law enforcement. Every night, Alex, I have state, local, and federal law enforcement agents come back just for a rock and roll event. It's just coincidental that they happen to be dedicated heroes of law enforcement. And I assure you that if a tyrannical government attempted to infringe upon our freedoms to that dastardly Katrina level of privately owned, law-abiding citizens' gun confiscation, at my side would be law enforcement heroes who would stand with the citizens of this country and, like a few good men, would refuse to implement an order against the Constitution and against self-evident truth-based freedoms and liberties. But that will be optimized by how we, the people, communicate with our local law enforcement. Alex, I'm astounded when I meet an American citizen that doesn't know who his sheriff is, that doesn't know his chief of police, and who have failed to sit down and have a decent, short, but regular conversation with these heroes so that they can have a communication, they can have a relationship, and that they emphasize to law enforcement that this is my family's name, this is where we live, we are dedicated to supporting law enforcement and be law-abiding and to be the ears and eyes of our neighborhood, but make sure you know that the law enforcement agents work for we the people, and those are our laws they are enforcing. But that communication, Alex, is almost non-existent in this country.
Oh, Ted, you have hit the nail directly on the head, and let me throw this out at you and then get your response and your analysis from Ted Nugent. Ted, we get 60% turnouts on average for presidential elections. We get 45% turnouts on average for off-year national elections for Congress and the Senate. But locally, the national average is about 8%. Here in Austin, it's about 8.5. I saw that in the paper last election. So this really is a key point that we look at the federal government, the internationalists, the UN coming in trying to take control of the feds through treaties, but the people aren't at the parapets. They're not at the Alamo's walls in the local government. And if we would come out and get involved and really run for office and check the candidates and support the good candidates, there is nothing on earth that could stop us.
Well, let's look at some of the manifestations of a social depravity that has been self-inflicted, and a choice of an embarrassing percentage of Americans. Let's look at obesity for a second. That is a physical manifestation of a cultural deprivation where people just don't give a damn. They don't care. Too many Americans. Let's first identify the good, because there's lots of good out there. There's lots of ultra hard working, good, decent.
But we have to identify the bad so we can stop doing it.
We have to identify the flat tire, no matter how good that pickup truck is. And the flat tire in America is apathy. And everyone listening to us right now, they're clenching their fist and going, yeah, that's right, God damn, that's right. Well, don't don't just say yeah to the radio. Don't just say yeah to your buddies around the campfire. Don't just say yeah to your buddies around the water cooler. Call your damn senator and your congressman and your mayor and your governor. Call your state rep and start identifying the horrors of welfare corruption and waste, the bureaucratic fedzilla of gluttonous, slovenly, wasteful, anti-American agendas that is widespread across this country. Any American who hasn't made an impact on their elected officials is a bad, negative, liability American. We've got to be in the asset column, and that means being involved in raising hell.
And, well, I agree with you. There's another major problem. I have all the major Club of Rome, United Nations documents, federal documents, North American Union, SPP documents, the Judicial Watch sued and got. They plan to bring in green taxes that have nothing to do with conservation, which I know you and I are for, and real environmentalism, but hijacking that whole movement to say what kind of light bulbs, what type of toilets, to tell you what you can and can't do, to tell you where you can put a bottling company, to tell you where you can put a factory. Total regulatory control and taxing all of our cars, taxing the air we exhale, saying carbon dioxide is deadly poison when all the studies show that global heating and cooling is natural. We have this huge international movement to bring in these taxes, and I have a stack of news here today where they are bringing in this whole new level where you're going to have bureaucrats involved in your daily life. They're going to hire high school kids to be, quote, climate cops to spy on us. Are you aware of all this, Ted?
I'm aware of all of it. In fact, I have numerous chapters in my new book, Ted, White, and Blue, that identifies the horror of the Fedzilla bulldozer that is plowing through our freedom and our liberty. Believe me, I've identified all this stuff, and I've got a huge chapter dedicated to how the Nugent family lives and how we raise hell. We figure that we have to raise hell at least one day a week to even deserve freedom the other 6 days. And if the rest of America would do this, Alex, I'm going to tell you, we could stop Fedzilla in its tracks. But Fedzilla is eating his boss. The boss of the bureaucrats is we the people. But right now, senators and congressmen are so arrogant and so convinced that we the people don't give a damn as long as we're fat, stupid, and drunk, and we've got a sporting event to watch on television, and we've got a six-pack, and we can conduct ourselves in an indulgent and gluttonous fashion, that they can tax us into oblivion.
Well, that's
Here's an example, and boy, I go into great detail how we should just eliminate the FDA. We should eliminate the USDA. We should eliminate the EPA. We should eliminate OSHA. We should eliminate all these bureaucratic pigs that don't accomplish a damn good thing for America.
Well, I'll say this.
Become a liability.
If somebody hurts the environment or hurts somebody else, they are liable criminally and through the courts. You're absolutely right. Instead, they selectively enforce, shut down our industry, and move it to China and Mexico, where there's no environmental standards. But Ted, how do we deal with the Child Protective Services that are running around kidnapping 1.4 million children a year with no due process, A, and then B, how do we deal with all of these other forms of governmental piracy that are going on?
Well, once again, it's all about raising hell. It's about communicating with your neighbors and forming a community voice. And I could give you 1,000 examples of how we've been able to nip bureaucratic bulldozers in the bud, Alex, by just simple community activism. If one person shows up at a community hearing where they're going to take our tax dollars and pay government shooters to go kill our deer for us, but we the people are not allowed to do the very thing that would turn that resource into an asset instead of Fedzilla forcing any resource, whether it's coal, oil, gas, or venison.
Well, Ted, for those that don't know, take outside Austin in one of the suburbs, they pay them $2,000 a deer to trap them and then to fly them to Mexico, and most of them die on the way because of stress. There are starving deer in my neighborhood stumbling around, falling into each other. They've been run over. There's no predators. They're everywhere.
Texas, Alex, that is allowed to happen in Texas. That's bizarre. Meanwhile, your big tough Texas ranchers and your big tough Texas hunters hunting is a $6 billion a year industry in Texas. The Texas Parks and Wildlife have done a good job, but if you were a good bass player, you couldn't be in my band. They're supposed to do a great job, and when American citizens' tax dollars are raped and pillaged in damage control instead of allowing we the people to implement quality control, i.e. the utilization of that wildlife resource as an asset instead of a liability, my head hangs and I weep tears of tyranny. And the fix is fixable overnight, Alex, if we just get a dozen people to pound the desk and go, leave our resources alone, open the door of bureaucratic red tape so that we can utilize. And again, it's not just about deer or nuisance geese at the
It's about control. It's about these individuals want to lock off more than half the country and not even let humans into them under United Nations treaties. And George Bush signed back onto UNESCO that does that Ronald Reagan pulled us out.